Again, who are you?
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and let's talk about the teen and Agatha all along. So I'm going to give you all the background on this character in the comics and in the MCU, and we're going to put those pieces together, and I'm going to explain to you exactly who this kid is and how he came back and why this is important for the Multiverse saga going forward. But mostly, I'm just looking forward to talking to you about the best mystery in the MCU since Who Are the Timekeepers? And I also want to remind you that we are right now selling tickets to our live show tour where we're going to have live Q&As, we're going to do fan games, trivia, and most importantly, I'm going to meet you face to face. Our first show is in Boston on November 14th. So get tickets now or no one will show up and I'll be embarrassed. Now we're all just assuming that the teen is the grown-up version of Wanda's son Billy. In fact, the closed caption in this trailer even listed him as Billy. But guys, Marvel trailers lie, like Thor having 2 eyes in the Ragnarok trailer. So I don't trust any marketing materials from Marvel. They want us to feel like we know who this kid is to throw us off when the twist happens.
You didn't see that coming?
And I should also acknowledge that the show put out a casting call for 2 characters named Rebecca and Jeff Kaplan, Billy Kaplan's parents in the comics. But again, Marvel guards their secrets very closely. They often disguise the casting calls as different names, so this could also be a misdirect. And there has also been a Funko Pop leak that could reveal his identity. But again, remember there was a fake Funko Pop leak during WandaVision that showed Mephisto appearing in the show. So everything that you see leak-wise could be misleading us on purpose. But I'm going to talk about that supposed leak in just a bit. Episode 3 even gave us a new option that the teen could somehow be Agatha's son, Nicholas Scratch.
I doubt she'd even recognize her own son if he showed up at her doorstep.
Now, I do think it's going to be Billy Kaplan, but I also think it's going to be way more complicated than you think.
Billy Kaplan? I thought his last name was like Maximoff.
Okay, so let me briefly give you guys the background on Billy Kaplan in the comics, and then I'll tell you about his history in the MCU so you know where we stand before we dive into these theories. First of all, the comics. So in the comics, Wanda and Vision were Avengers together, they fell in love, and then they took a leave of absence from the team to go off and live in New Jersey. Now, in the comics, Agatha Harkness was a lot less nefarious, and she was actually Wanda's mentor. Now, at one point, Agatha was burned at the stake by her son, Nicholas Scratch, more on him later, and by her grandkids, the Salem 7, the same group chasing her in the show. But when she was burned, Agatha's energy flew into Wanda, and then Wanda was able to form that energy into twin sons, who, incidentally, were delivered by Doctor Strange. Wanda raised the kids, and a resurrected Agatha Harkness was their nanny. But then people noticed that when Wanda stopped thinking about her kids, they disappeared. This is when Agatha revealed that Wanda was never really pregnant. She imagined her kids into existence. Now, this happened right around the same time when Vision's memory was erased. So Wanda then was very vulnerable and she fell under the spell of Immortus, a future version of Kang that we actually saw in the Ant-Man and Quantumania post-credits scene. Now, Wanda is an incredibly powerful mutant whose powers could fundamentally alter reality and destroy the world. So Agatha cast a spell on Wanda that erased all memory of her sons, and this spell lasted 4 years. Now, a lot of that has already been adapted into the MCU. Later, in the comic book Avengers Disassembled, Wanda remembers her sons, goes insane, and then rewrites reality to make it a perfect world for herself, just like she does in WandaVision.
Oh, jeez.
Doug, what are you doing?
This stupid computer keeps freezing up.
Well, dude, you're abusing your browser. You got like 40 tabs open and you're playing videos on 2 of them and then you're playing music in the background. You have to start using a better browser.
But the options are so limited.
Well, then you should start using Opera. I started using Opera for this ad and I never switched back.
Okay then, what's so special about Opera?
Oh man, it has so many awesome common sense tools. Like for instance, you have a million tabs open right now, but Opera lets you make tab islands where you can group tabs together, that are alike. And you can customize those tabs with emojis so they're easy to find. Plus, Opera has an AI tool called Aria that is intuitive and so easy to use. You can ask Aria questions in the command line and you can do image generation. But for my job, I've used the image recognition tool a lot. Now this happens to me all the time where I'm making an Easter egg video and I have to identify a piece of art, and then Opera makes it easy for me to do my image search. But Opera also offers so many common sense organization tools. Like in the chat bar, I link up my DMs from Instagram, WhatsApp, chat, TikTok, and more. So much easier than clicking in a million different tabs. There are also music players where you can link Spotify, Apple Music, or more. But mostly for what we do, I love watching videos in lucid mode. Like sometimes a studio drops a movie trailer and it's not high res. So when we do a breakdown video, I use lucid mode to really see the background details. cells, and you can pop out videos and move them around your frame, which is also so easy for me when I do research. So to download Opera now, click our link in the description. You won't regret it. This is a next level way to use the internet. Now back to what I was saying. So very long story short, it was later revealed that the twins were actually pieces of Mephisto's soul. But when Reed Richards destroyed Mephisto, those two soul shards became part of a very powerful life force, and then Wanda tried to get them back from that life force with the help of Dr. Doom. Very long story short, the life force drove Wanda insane, but it brought her boys back to life. So these two pieces of their souls attach themselves to two teenagers, Billy Kaplan and Tommy Shepard. These teens end up having powers and joining the Young Avengers. Billy has magical abilities like Wanda, and Tommy has super speed.
Hey, just like her kids in WandaVision.
Exactly, and then Billy and Tommy become Young Avengers and discover that their mom is Wanda Maximoff. Now there's also a great comic series called The Children's Crusade where they find Wanda and release her from Dr. Doom's amnesiac spell. So in the comics, Billy Kaplan is gay and his boyfriend Hulkling is the shape-shifting son of Mar-Vell and a Skrull Empress. So both the teen and Billy being queer is another hint that this is Billy Kaplan. But there's another hint that something very weird is going on here. So in the MCU, the twins have a similar origin to what we saw in the comics. Wanda, who was reeling from the loss of Vision, just like she was in the comics, creates her own perfect reality, like in the House of M story that I mentioned earlier. So Wanda created this reality on her own, and then Agatha senses this spell and shows up to manipulate Wanda to test her boundaries. For example, she wants to see if Wanda can create life. So in episode 2, she hints that they should be thinking about schools.
School admissions.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
And then she casts a spell to make everybody give Wanda subliminal messages.
Westview Elementary for the children.
And Agatha also wanted to see what would happen if Wanda exposed her powers to the people of Westview, which is why she sabotaged the magic show. And then when Wanda's perfect reality is infiltrated by a sword agent, not the beast! Ah! Wanda responds by actually creating life, twin sons. But this is after Agatha has started to interfere with Westview and with Wanda's illusion. For instance, she also mind controls Herb into rousing Vision's suspicions.
She came here because we're all...
She came here because we're all what? What are you trying to tell me?
And in a very special episode, she seems to sprinkle the kids with a potion. Now, moments later, the boys have grown about 5 years. But the interesting thing about this is how the boys immediately seem to be aware of the capabilities of their TV reality. Like sitcoms will age up kids all the time, like Little Nicky on Fresh Prince. And Wanda's boys take advantage of this so they can get a pet dog. And this is all happening while Agatha is present. And then Agatha kills their dog, Sparky.
And I killed Sparky too.
Leading the boys to ask their mom if she can bring back the dead.
You can fix anything, Mom. Fix the dead.
So this is Agatha testing Wanda's boundaries to see if she can bring people back from the dead. And to further plant the seed into her head, she recasts her dead brother Pietro.
She recast Pietro?
And then she uses Pietro to pump Wanda for information.
How'd you even do all this?
Agatha is influencing the growth and maturity of these kids. Pietro inspires Tommy to use his super speed. Agatha's manipulations are causing the kids' powers to manifest. This is very important and we're going to talk about it later. Now, in that Halloween episode, like I said, Billy and Tommy display the same powers as Wiccan and Speed in the comics.
You can take it slow, you can...
In particular, Billy seems to not only have magical powers, but he can also sense when his dad is in trouble.
They think he's dying.
Wanda could not sense that. This is because Billy is evolving. He is not just a part of this illusion, but he has grown beyond it, and he really does become his own life form, separate from Wanda's creation and Agatha's manipulations. Now, WandaVision ends with Wanda dropping the hex and her kids apparently fading from existence. But here's the thing. We never see the kids fade away. Now, we do see the Vision fade away, but then Wanda explains exactly who and what this version of the Vision is.
Are the piece of the Mind Stone that lives in me.
So Vision was always a physical manifestation of energy that was inside of Wanda. So the main question is, what were Wanda's boys made of? Were they made up of the Mind Stone energy that Wanda absorbed back into herself, or were they something more? And by the way, everybody, I want to show you this kick-ass new Agatha-inspired parody merch for sale now at our merch store, ScreenCrushMerch.com, where we design all the merch ourselves. We have this Get On Losers, we're walking the cursed road.
Get in, loser, we're going shopping.
It'll be a gas, which is available in a variety of different products, and one of my personal favorites, this Westview Neighborhood Watch shirt, inspired by the Vision's job in WandaVision. Shopping our merch store is the best way to directly support our channel. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting us. The links for these, if you want to shop them, are below. So, in Multiverse of Madness, Wanda uses the Darkhold to dreamwalk into other realities. She sees variants of herself and learns some very important information. In every other reality, her kids are alive. But, and this is important, it appears as if her boys do not have superpowers. When Wanda portals into their home, the kids cry and scream, but they don't defend the house, as opposed to, you know, what the boys in WandaVision do.
Your mother and I never really prepared you for this.
But you were born for it.
And there is a reason for this that I'm going to talk about in just a bit. But first, let's look at the teen and every clue we know so far. First, we know very little about him other than he wants to walk the Witch's Road to unlock new power. Episode 3 reveals that he was also sealed with a sigil.
Hide something. In this case, you, from witch folk.
So when he tries to say his name, we get this scrawl on his face, which Scarlet Witch Update on Twitter pointed out is a symbol that appears on these tarot cards. Now there's also this scene in the car when his audio is drowned out. Now look, actor Joe Locke told The Wrap that he improvised all of this dialogue, so it's pointless for us to lip read it. But at the beginning of it, he does says, well, I was born in Eastview. Eastview is the same town that Agatha name checks a car crash in episode 1.
There was a car wreck about an hour before time of death.
Where?
Eastview.
And the channel New Rockstars also mentions that there is this headline for a car crash in the credits, and they throw out a theory that Joe could possibly have been in that car wreck and died, but then was resurrected with young Billy's soul. Now I like that theory a lot, but I still think there's a little bit more to it. Now there are other clues here, like how in episode 3 Billy calls Sharon Davis.
Wait, where's Mrs. Hart?
And remember, that was her sitcom name.
Mrs. Hart was what Wanda, granted me. You know, my name is Sharon.
So why would Billy call her this? Because Billy grew up inside that sitcom fantasy world. New Rockstars also pointed out a cool costume detail, that the stars on the teen's jeans look like the stars on Wiccan's costume. And remember, young Billy dressed up as a comic-accurate Wiccan for his Halloween suit.
Alright, so that's a slam dunk person. He is Billy Kaplan.
I mean, it looks that way, and that Funko Pop leak I mentioned earlier even calls him Wiccan. But just because he becomes the hero named Wiccan does not mean that he's actually the son of Wanda. And this is where it gets interesting. This episode added a new wrinkle into this mystery. We learn about Agatha's son, Nicholas Scratch.
Did you know she traded her own child for the Book of the Damned?
And she also adds that he could be
an agent of Mephisto.
Not the beast! Not the beast!
But then Jennifer follows this up with,
I doubt she'd even recognize her own son if he showed up at her doorstep.
That's f***ing interesting, man. That's f***ing interesting.
Agatha also doesn't let Billy drink the poison like she's being an overprotective mother. So the theory being thrown around is that somehow the teen is both Billy Kaplan and Nicholas Scratch, like their souls have merged. Personally, I think this theory is a red herring and a little bit too complicated. I like the theory that her son Nicholas is trapped in the soul of her bunny, Senior Scratchy. But that doesn't mean that there's not a connection to Agatha, Billy, and Wanda. So here's my theory. So for me, the key part of this is that the MCU 616 reality is the only universe where Wanda didn't get to keep her boys. In the MCU, Wanda's sons were created through the accidental use of her chaos magic, stemming from her grief over the loss of Vision. We also saw in Universe 838 that the Illuminati successfully defeated Thanos. And in the show What If, we saw several realities where Thanos never snapped. In fact, he even became a guardian of the galaxy.
I'm a big enough man to admit when I'm wrong.
So this leads me to believe that the only universe where Thanos actually won was in the MCU. And this might be why the 616 seems to be so important to the multiverse. Remember, Thanos' snapping is what sent the Avengers back in time, and that event created the variant of Loki that we saw in the show Loki. And then that version of Loki was actually set up by He Who Remains to take over his rule of the multiverse. So He Who Remains created a very special set of circumstances in the 616 that did not occur elsewhere in the multiverse. He altered the proper flow of time to make sure that Thanos won. As a consequence, Wanda Maximoff lost Vision, created her sons by herself, went insane, caused incursions, and destroyed the Darkhold in every single reality. So, what was so different in those other universes? Well, we do see that Wanda in Multiverse of Madness is living in the same house that she made for herself in Westview. So it stands to reason that she and Vision were able to build on that plot of land, and then they would have created these boys together. Somehow, Wanda was able to pull the energy from Vision's Mind Stone and impregnate herself to create her sons.
Yeah, but that kind of magic is way too advanced. Everything Wanda does is just with instinct.
Exactly, and that's why I think that in all these other realities, Wanda had a mentor. Just like in the comics, I think that mentor was Agatha Harkness. So Agatha was partially responsible for creating Wanda's sons in Universe 838, just like how she influenced their creation and growth in the MCU as we saw in the show WandaVision. Now, in season 1 of What If, we learned about absolute points in time.
Absolute.
Unchangeable. Unmovable.
These are events that are anchored to their universes. They have to happen because, like Mobius said,
that's the proper flow of time, and it happens again and again and again because it's supposed to, because it has to.
Now we also see a similar event in X-Men 97, the destruction of Genosha.
Each time we attempt to stop the attack on Genosha, we are temporally pulled away from the event.
The mystics of Kamartaj speak of absolute points.
So what we're seeing is that there are events that have to occur in every timeline. For instance, normally the defeat of Thanos is one of these events, until He Who Remains altered the flow of time to bring Loki to his doorstep.
I paved the road.
And recently we learned that there are also absolute people in time. In the comics, these are called Nexus Beings. They are important people who are like the constants across different universes. But in the MCU, these are called Anchor Beings. In Deadpool and Wolverine, we learned that Logan was one of these Anchor Beings. So, add all of this up. Wanda and Vision's sons normally exist in every universe. They are meant to exist in every universe. He Who Remains alters events so they don't exist. But, you know, life.
Finds a way.
Now, Billy and Tommy may not physically exist in the 616 universe, but their souls still do. And I said it earlier, Billy inside the Hex became autonomous and wise almost immediately. He senses his dad. He evolves beyond being simply a creation of his mother's. This is because the Billy inside the Hex had an actual soul that was destined to exist in this universe. Billy is an anchor being. He is very important to this universe and every other universe he exists within. So, despite the manipulations of He Who Remains, Billy and Tommy will exist in the 616 universe. Wanda, without realizing it, pulled their souls into her creations inside the Hex. But in this universe, these boys also had a little bit of Agatha's essence as well. Agatha sprinkled the potion on them. Agatha was their mentor. Agatha encouraged them to grow and to use their powers.
Kids. Can't control them.
Just like how in the comics, Agatha's energy originally helped Wanda conceive her sons.
This is weird.
It gets weirder. I think this is the reason why in this universe, Billy and the kids have powers, because of Agatha's influence. A little bit of Agatha's magic is part of Billy. Now, all of this raises the question, who actually placed this sigil on the team? Now, the obvious answer is Wanda. The spell on his mouth even looks like a WV.
For West Virginia, go Mountaineers!
No, for WandaVision. In the comics, Wanda was able to subconsciously rescue her son's souls after she was driven mad. So maybe something similar happened in the MCU. In the post-credits of WandaVision, while she was reading the Darkhold, Wanda heard her sons call out to her. This was her son's souls in the multiverse trying to come home to their mother. And then, as Wanda was sacrificing her life in Multiverse of Madness, she could have sensed her boys' lost souls in the multiverse and given them a suitable new form. In this case, the body of a dead teen in Eastview. Remember, we did see the Wanda Chthon Shrine in the Void in Deadpool and Wolverine, implying that Wanda lived long enough to probably cast more spells and that she's probably still out there. But, you know, just like in the comics, she probably doesn't have any memory. If she did survive the mountain collapsing, then she would have lived long enough to find her sons out there and to send them home. But in doing so, she also placed a protective spell on them. This would also explain why Billy was able to help Agatha break Wanda's spell. Remember, in Infinity War, Doctor Strange said,
"You find removing a dead man's spell troublesome."
But if Billy was created with Wanda's magic, then it would make sense that he would be the one who could break a spell that was cast with that same magic. But I think the sigil goes deeper than that. I think the sigil is also there to keep witches away from her son, so he will never become a superhero. In the comic book event House of M, Wanda rewrites reality so her father Magneto rules the world. But in this reality, Wanda is born without powers. See, all she ever wanted was a normal family life. So I think she cast this spell to give her son a chance at that life life that she never had. But eventually, Agatha's past sins and her grudge against the Salem 7 and Nicholas Scratch will catch up to her, and then Billy's going to have to unleash his magic to save his surrogate mother's life. Because, unlike in every other reality, this version of Billy Kaplan has powers because he is, in a way, a marriage of Agatha and Wanda's abilities. But guys, that's just what I think. Remember to buy tickets to our live show. The links for that and our Discord server are below. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.